So the Chiefs not only drafted 7 players, signed several undrafted free agents, and invited even more to their rookie minicamp, but they are set to sign even more players on Friday. And in this video, I'll take a look at the entire draft class in tandem with key takeaways from Brett Veach's post-draft presser, but not before I talk about Patrick Mahomes and Company appearing on WWE's Monday Night Raw in Kansas City. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? All right, to start things off, Patrick Mahomes and a few other Chiefs players made an appearance on Monday Night Raw. WWE was in town at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, and Mahomes could be seen dapping up YouTuber Logan Paul. His partner KSI was in attendance as well, representing their sports drink and energy drink brand Prime. And that's relevant because back in December, Patrick Mahomes actually partnered up with Prime as one of their official athletes, getting his own hydration drink, which was honestly an extremely smart move by both KSI and Logan Paul to get the face of the entire NFL on board. Anyway, in last night's WWE event, Mahomes was seen wearing 3 Super Bowl rings, all replicas for sure, especially considering the 3rd ring hasn't even been finished yet. And during one of the matches, he gave all 3 of those rings to Logan Paul to punch someone, which didn't work out so well. Then later, Braun Strowman, I believe is his name. I don't know. I don't watch wrestling anymore since The Rock, even though he performed at WrestleMania, and the big guys like Steve Austin, Undertaker, Kane, all those guys are no longer around. It was fun in my childhood. Don't watch it anymore, but this guy, Braun Strowman, turned around to square up with Mahomes himself, but his bodyguards, Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, both stood up to let Braun know that wasn't going to happen. Obviously, it's all for sport, but it was pretty entertaining to see Chiefs players get some screen time on WWE. And speaking of Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, they were featured during the event with Joey Borgonzi, who is a kid that ended up on the team bus as the Super Bowl rally shooting began. I think they fled and retreated into the bus, and that's where Trey Smith was there to comfort Joey, giving him a Chiefs belt and telling him, "You're a champion and nobody's gonna hurt you." And last night on Raw, Joey actually got a hero's welcome as he stood in the ring with Creed and Trey to start things off, which was pretty cool to see. Something else that was pretty cool to see, very cool to see, in fact, was tight end Travis Kelce surprisingly getting a 2-year extension yesterday to make him also the highest paid tight end in the NFL, or at least that's what the reports initially indicated, with Ian Rappaport, among others, saying Kelce was getting extended 2 years. That led everyone to believe his contract now ended in 2027, his 38 years of age season, rather than 2025, when his current contract was initially slated to end. I mean, Tom Pelissero even said that basically word for word, so you had all the major insiders reporting this, but somehow the information they got was either misconstrued or misunderstood, because they all backtracked on this later in the day, and I do apologize to you guys as well. I went live about 30 to 45 minutes after this announcement was made and kind of said, the same stuff they did. So that's on me, but the main truth did remain the same. Kelce is indeed now the highest paid tight end in the NFL. However, it was more of a 2-year contract adjustment. They basically added more money onto his current contract that ends in 2025, giving him a very well-deserved pay bump. But to be clear, there are no new years added to his contract. Spotrac confirmed with Kelce's agent that his contract still ends in 2025, but now is set to earn $34.25 million with $17 million guaranteed rather than $30.24 million. The remaining $17.5 million becomes guaranteed next March, and this does officially make Kelce the highest paid tight end in both average per year and cash over the next 2 years. So it's a nice $4 million raise for the greatest in the game, and again, very well deserved. Kelce was stoked about it, even getting emotional in this video on social media after signing his new or updated 2-year contract adjustment yesterday.
Feels good to be in KC. I remember coming here 12 years ago, man. It's an honor and a pleasure. Chiefs forever.
And I won't lie, I wasn't expecting to almost get emotional watching that video from Kelce, but I'm very glad the Chiefs made it a priority to get him some extra money, considering before yesterday, he was the 4th highest paid tight end in the NFL, but has been outproducing top wide receivers in the league for years. And that's basically how Chiefs GM Brett Veach started his post-draft presser yesterday by congratulating Kelce on his contract adjustment, noting that it was a priority to adjust his contract and something that was important to Clark Hunt to make Kelce the highest paid tight end in the NFL. The reason for the timing, it happening yesterday, is they tend to focus on guys currently rostered and under contract after the draft, which means we could also possibly see an extension announcement for linebacker Nick Bolton, center Creed Humphrey, and or right guard Trey Smith. The most likely one to get extended, in my eyes, of the three is Creed Humphrey, as this man is a top 3 player at his position, and now that Jason Kelce is retired, you could make a legitimate argument for Creed being the best center in the entire NFL. Obviously, an incoming extension for Creed is speculation on my part, but he makes the most sense out of the 3, though, hey, I am a big fan of all of them, and if KC can find a way to keep Creed, Trey Smith, and Nick Bolton around for years to come, I'm all for it. Sign me up. Veach said between now and training camp, they will be getting with the young guys, players like Creed, Bolton, Smith, and their agents to talk through things. So we may see something happen for at least one of these 3 players by the end of July. And while the Chiefs are signing some additional free agents this Friday, more on that in a bit because they're most likely all UDFA signings, Veach was asked, now that the draft is over, does he see the team making any additional free agent signings, maybe a veteran left tackle, Donovan Smith, a veteran wideout like Zay Jones, who just got released today, or even McCole Hardman, or maybe even a veteran running back like Jerick McKinnon, though with Xavier Worthy getting number 1, it makes me unsure about a McKinnon return, though of course he can take a different number. And Veach's response to that question of adding more free agents was basically, we'll see. He didn't tip his hat one way or another, saying he wants time to evaluate the roster as a whole before making any additional moves. He just wants as much competition and position battles as possible, and if they feel it's not enough at certain positions, they will add before training camp. And before I get too far into Veach's presser, he did thank his team and the coaching staff on the 7 players they drafted, noting that there's even more players incoming.
And got some verbals on some free agents we're really excited about, and those won't be official till Friday.
And those verbal agreements on free agents they are excited about are most likely all undrafted free agents that they are working to officially sign to the roster. I did a video on Monday, in case you missed it, covering the ones, the UDFAs in particular, they have signed so far. From what I understand, though, a couple of those in there could be verbal guys that officially signed Friday. So check that out if you haven't already, and we will see what new UDFAs come about this upcoming Friday. The questions were then honed in on the specific draft picks that Veach and company made, and he said tight end Jared Wiley is a dual threat tight end, blocking and receiving. That's hard to find in the draft at times. He's excited to have a combo tight end on the roster that's a bigger bodied guy like Kelce. Noah Gray plays his role, but he's a little smaller, I guess, at 6'3", though for what it's worth, George Kittle is 6'4" and handles that pretty freaking well. But when asked about the Chiefs' second round pick, offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia, he said Kingsley was pretty high up on their board, and they were glad to be able to get him at pick 63. He's got experience playing both right and left tackle, so there's value of his versatility there, but the plan is to throw him at left tackle and have him be in competition with Wanye Morris for the starting spot. And when asked about the 5th rounder, Hunter Nourzad, the offensive lineman out of Penn State, he's played 4 of 5 positions along the offensive line. Veach basically said he's the new Nick Allegretti, the Swiss Army knife-like depth piece along the interior of the O-line, at least for now.
We feel has a tremendous amount of upside, but also almost seeing like that Nick Allegretti role.
And the reason why they added 3 linemen in this year's draft, Kingsley, Nourzad, and 7th round pick CJ Hansen, who started right guard the last 2 years at Holy Cross, is to make sure there was plenty of depth and competition going into camp, especially when you consider the fact Donovan Smith is still a free agent, Nick Allegretti is gone, and then Prince Tega Wanogho, KC's swing tackle the last couple of years, is another guy who's still a free agent. So you've got to build those O-line positions back up and never let Super Bowl 55 happen again. It's not funny, but that's my nervous reaction to traumatic events. And that's not even mentioning the fact that, again, both Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are on the last year of their deals, and Joe Thuney only has a couple years left, is around 32 years old, and coming off of a pec tear late last year. Now, a position group that seems to be lacking depth at the moment is the running back room, as the Chiefs surprisingly didn't add any running backs via the draft, though they did sign a couple of UDFAs in Carson Steele out of UCLA and Amani Bailey out of TCU. I talked about them in that UDFA video. Please check it out if you haven't, but Veach was asked about the RB3 spot, and he basically said it's going to be a battle between the new UDFAs in Carson Steele and Amani Bailey, as well as guys they have on the roster like Keontae Ingram, former Cardinals running back they signed late last November. Then you have LaMichael Pirine and Deneric Prince. The biggest factors they're going to be looking at in all these guys is their ability to play special teams and pass protect. It's very important and something that Jerick McKinnon did very well at. And as of right now, I'm curious as to who you guys think may be running back number 3, though of course it's still very early in the offseason. Do you think it could be Keontae Ingram, Carson Steele, Amani Bailey, Deneric Prince, LaMichael Pirine, or maybe they even add another veteran free agent here down the road? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, one of the 2 fourth-round picks that KC made was safety Jaden Hicks, and Veach said his value was way too good to pass up. He was by far the best player still available on their board, and so they took him, even though the safety position was looking pretty good, all things considered. He will most likely play special teams to start out, but his versatility in the secondary will also be a welcomed asset to the team. And, yeah, this is actually one of my favorite picks, the number 1 graded safety on Dane Brugler's draft board that can be used all over the secondary, and the Chiefs were able to snag him in the 4th. Thank you very much. Veach wasn't really asked about the 6th-round pick, the corner out of Tennessee, Kamal Hadden, but this is another physical press corner who was a PBU machine before he needed season-ending shoulder surgery back in October. He's got the physical build of L'Jarius Sneed, though he's not quite the athlete, not as athletic as Sneed, and certainly at this point in time, not the player Sneed is. Sneed was one of the best in the NFL, we all know that. But I am excited to see Hadden and what he's got, as he does definitely add competition in the cornerback room. Then for the 1st-round pick in Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver out of Texas, they had a range of getting Worthy anywhere between pick 25 and 40, but felt comfortable going up to get him. He's a very young receiver, just turned 21 last week, and some are saying he's a guy who was already, at this point in time, a better receiver, a better route runner than McCole Hardman, with the ability to get even better. You can use him in the MVS role to stretch the field, but even though he ran a 4.21 40, he's a guy who can definitely do more than just stretch the field. All in all, the Chiefs opted to draft intelligent, versatile players at positions of need, and considering they pick at the end of every round, they really knocked another draft out of the park, and I'm not even trying to be a biased Chiefs homer about it. Warren Sharp listed safety Jaden Hicks as KC's biggest steal, with that pick actually coming from the Buffalo Bills. Remember when the Chiefs traded up with Buffalo in round 1, they had to exchange their 3rd-round pick for Buffalo's 4th-round pick to move up and get Worthy. And with that exact 4th-round pick, they got one of the best steals of the draft in Jaden Hicks. And you would think by now that Buffalo would learn their lesson to quit dealing with the Chiefs in the draft, but nope. So thank you once again, Buffalo. Warren Sharp actually had the Chiefs 3rd overall out of all 32 teams as far as those who found the best value in the draft. So as of right now, it's looking like another solid draft from Brett Veach and his team, as they seem to get better every single year. But with all that being said, let me know your thoughts and overall grade on the 2024 NFL Draft from the Kansas City Chiefs in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?